For more on this, let's bring in Stephen Farnsworth. He's an expert in U.S. politics and the presidency from the University of Mary Washington in Virginia. Stephen, do you think this 30-day infrastructure ceasefire is something the Russians and Ukrainians will stick to?
Well, I do think that it's a good start in what has been a horrific war for both sides. I think it's really important to recognize, though, that these ceasefires, at least where the Russians are concerned historically, have been kind of slurry. And I don't know that the freeze is really going to be in place for very long. We can hope for that, but there's certainly a range of opportunities because it's not a full ceasefire. It's a partial ceasefire. And the question of what's in and what's out, that's one of the ways that Putin may use a ceasefire to not really be a ceasefire fully.
Well, and I want to ask you, do you think Putin even wants this ceasefire that Trump has proposed, this total ceasefire that Ukraine has already agreed to?
Well, it doesn't seem like that was the case. I'm sure President Trump, during the 2-hour conversation they had today, was pushing Putin for exactly the same deal that Trump originally offered and that Zelensky had accepted in Ukraine. So I think that this was in some ways a half victory for the president, and a situation where we are looking at a more possibility for an expanded ceasefire depending on how things go. So it's not an ultimate defeat for the forces of peace, but it's not the kind of victory that Donald Trump had been looking for as of yesterday either.
Ukraine has been adamant that for peace to come, Russia must give back all the land it's taken. Do you think that would ever happen in a Trump-brokered deal?
Well, I think that that's the standard that Ukraine has set from day one, and it's going to be a very difficult one for the Russians to accept. They have invaded. They are occupying about 20% of the country now. They have invaded a second time. You're looking at a situation where Putin has to be able to go back to Russia with some measure of success. Zelensky, though, can't afford to give up parts of Ukraine as part of this deal. So my guess is that we're looking at a continuing stalemate here. The situation for Ukraine is advantaged a little bit by the growing willingness of Europeans to fill in the gaps. Trump's not being as pro-Ukraine in his support as President Biden was during the past presidency. And so that's one of the ways that that Zelensky is still being able to hang on, even though, of course, the resource gap is immense between what the Russians can bring to bear and what the Ukrainians can bring to bear.
It sounds like you're suggesting that these two sides, be it that they're so far apart, there is no peace deal that the Trump administration could broker right now.
Well, I think what we're going to be seeing is a series of half measures like what you saw today. I think that there is the possibility that you can make more progress. You can maybe extend this existing 30-day ceasefire, partial ceasefire with respect to infrastructure to 90 days, if in fact the first 30 days go well. But make no mistake about it, I don't think there's going to be a resolution in the cards. When you're looking at Russia having to come back with some measure of success, and the Ukrainians not at all interested in giving up any part of the country to the Russians, you're looking at a recipe for continued difficulty, and a difficulty that doesn't seem likely to lend to any kind of full peace deal in the immediate future.
That's Stephen Farnsworth from the University of Mary Washington. Stephen, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.